Oh, it is.
Welcome to Vinyl Verdict. I'm Bell.
I'm Jamie.
I'm Plouffe.
And a note for this episode. This episode contains a lot of talk about unaliving oneself and, not doing that as well. But if that word makes you uncomfortable, this episode may be a skip, as we're going to use the actual term after this, because unalive is not the...
It's TikTok.
It's not the word they use in this album. So just something to know. But... Plouffe, why don't you tell us about the album that you have picked this week?
Yeah, so I picked 2003's Streetlight Manifesto, Everything Goes Numb. It's one of my all-time favorite ska, both bands and albums, and it's their debut album after a few members left another kind of famous ska band, Catch-22. They originally comprised of, at least for this album, since some members were only around for the first year before it released.
A lot of people who've been in this band.
Yes, so they still tour to this day, and I'm pretty jealous of a few friends who've seen them because I haven't yet. And they've gone through some member changes. It's also a bigger band, right? Like, it's a ska band, so on top of having like guitarist, drummer, bassist.
It's not called Real Small Fish. It's called Real Big Fish for a reason. These ska bands need some people.
So they've got, a bunch of brass players, and I think they've got some extra percussionists, and then there's gang vocals who are credited as well.
Gang vocals?
Yeah, because they do there's some like big, we'll talk about it later.
Yeah, I don't know, I just would have called it gang vocals.
That's how they credit
it. Was West Side Story over here?
That's how they credit it.
Everybody's snapping?
Gang vocals. Anyway, it's comprised for this album of singer-songwriter and guitarist Tomas Kalnoky, trumpeter Jamie Egan, saxophonist Jim Conti and Dan Ross, bassist Josh Ansley, and drummer Paul Lowndes. They credit a few more artists for gang vocals, but Jamie and Jim are also credited for backing vocals because these guys like to do a lot of either harmonies or not quite rounds, but some like group singing.
Yeah, remind me of Blink-182 a few times.
That
Like the way Tom and Mark would kind of sing along to each other.
Totally.
Oh, like a call in it,
Yeah.
Streetlight formed as a sort of spin-off of Catch-22 in 2002 when...
But they had beef.
Yeah, so Thomas, Josh, and James left the band, and I don't know, in my opinion, he's always the singer-songwriter, so he was kind of the heart of the band. They first formed Bandits of the Acoustic Revolution, which put out a fantastic EP with one of the longest song titles I've ever seen. They provide the paint for the picture-perfect masterpiece that they will paint on the inside of their eyelids. Yep.
Sure.
But then they replaced a couple members and became Streetlight, recording and releasing Everything Goes Numb in 2003. Quick mention, Jamie recorded the trombone for the album. But,
I did not.
Well, not this Jamie. But they quickly picked up Mike Soprano when they went on tour, since he couldn't play two instruments at the same time. They're a ska band. They are from Third Wave Ska. Ska's a little complicated. My rudimentary knowledge is it originated in Jamaica in the 50s as a mix of mento and calypso with jazz and rhythm and blues. That's first wave. Second wave was in the 70s, which fused Jamaican ska rhythms and melodies with faster tempos of punk. And then what we're listening today is third wave, which is basically what you get when you take the punky, brassy sound and add more influence from wherever and whoever. So, I don't know. I love ska, and I think it gets a kind of a bad reputation, despite having a lot of great bands. Most people mention Real Big Fish or the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones, but I don't really like either of those that much, and I prefer more niche artists like Goldfinger. But I like Streetlight, Mad Caddies, Mustard Plug, Voodoo, Glow Skulls, and the Planet Smashers quite a bit. I love Streetlight mostly for their kind of powerful lyrics and interesting sound. I almost kind of like to describe them as big band sometimes. You get all these really cool guitar riffs mixed with some fantastic brass solos and a driving drum beat, and it's all alongside some deeper lyrics than what you'd find in a typical punk album. A lot of death, war, suicide, hope, the afterlife. These are all major themes that are evident in both the song titles and the lyrics. And growing up as a depressed teenager in Yellowknife, of all places, where suicide and hopelessness runs rampant, I really connected with it when I was a kid. And the musicians kind of helped open me up to a much wider sound. Like, before I found Streetlight, I was mostly listening to metal, hip-hop, and grunge, maybe a little bit of punk. But now I was suddenly interested in, like, big band, jazz, classical, flamenco, calypso. Basically, everything was, like, enjoyable or interesting to me, at the very least. But I'm the big ska guy here, and you guys aren't. So what did you think about the whole thing?
Well, I haven't listened to a ton of ska. I always had stuff that's appeared in video games in the early 2000s. Like, I was kind of the right age for ska in video games. Maybe a little young, but like Tony Hawk, ATV games, things like that. There was a lot of ska.
Yeah.
And I don't think ska is for me. There's definitely hints of stuff I like here. Like I like the speed, I like the harmonizing, but every song on this album, and I think every ska song I've ever heard, sounds the exact same. Like every song I'm like, it's this song again. Or I couldn't tell when a song would end and another would begin.
Right.
And I was like, man, I just don't know what's going on. And I will give them this, that I bet this would be so much fun live in 2003.
Yeah.
Maybe now. But
even now, I would love to see this live. I'd skank it up, no problem.
Yeah, the early aughts, they must have just torn it up.
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
Skanked it up.
Yeah. And it's crazy this band came from New Brunswick.
Oh, I didn't know that, actually.
In New Jersey.
Okay, yeah.
But I was like, New Brunswick.
I thought it was New
It was
Jersey.
like New Brunswick, New Jersey. I was like, oh. It's funny, we were talking to Adam earlier today. I'm like, oh, have you heard Streetlight Manifesto? He's like, yeah, they're great. And I was like, you're wrong. But he's like, did you know that they're from New Brunswick? And I was like, New Jersey. He's like, yeah. I think it's fun. And seeing how many band members they had, I was like, that's crazy. But that's all I have about this. It's, again, another one where I don't have a ton of experience. I mean, this one I can vocalize why I don't like it. So at least I have that going for me. But yeah, it's just, it didn't change up enough, and then sometimes it changed up too much.
Sure.
It was, it's a long album.
Yeah, it's like 55 minutes.
And every song is like 6-7 minutes.
Yeah,
Except for the one that's two.
They're long tracks. Yeah,
that was the best song on the album. What do you think, Jamie?
I got a little story. So, because I always have a little story. One of the guys I went to Brock with, I went to Brock University and I stayed in residence.
That's Ivy League, by the way.
Yeah, it's not. It's not. It's like
I didn't know that.
grass clippings league. He came from California. He was a Canadian, but he lived in California with his parents, and he loved ska. And he used to tell everybody about ska. Nobody understood what ska was. This is 2006. At one point, he had worked as a volunteer for Asian Man Records, which is a large or medium-sized independent ska and punk label in California. And one of the bands that was signed to them was Big D and the Kids Table, which is I guess a ska band. And for the longest time, that was the only ska band I knew, because Mark used to play Big D and the Kids Table all the time. Nobody liked Big D and the Kids Table. Anyway, I don't like ska, but I don't hate ska. I don't like it though.
Sure.
It's not for me. It's too many. It's too much. It's too much going on.
I love how much is going on.
Do you remember when swing came back? When swing
Electro
music?
swing.
Yeah, and then electro swing kind of hit the scene. Yeah, I love electro swing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't
man.
like.
I love
That tracks, man. When I look at you, I go, this guy likes Caravan Palace or whatever it is.
I do. I love Caravan
Yeah,
Palace. Yeah.
Viewer, if you could see the way Plouffe is dressed right now, you would believe it.
Yeah, he's wearing a zoot suit.
He's got his Doc Martens on.
I do not wear Doc Martens. Oh my God.
Anyway, the whole swing revival thing that was really big around the time the movie The Mask came out.
Oh, yeah.
Also reminds me of how ska was really popular around the time the movie The Mask came out.
Yep.
You know what?
Third
The
Wave.
ska people kind of dress like the Mask did.
Sure.
That oversized suit with the yellow hat. I can imagine someone skanking in that.
Definitely.
Anyway, ska's not for me. Just like it's not for Jake Bell. And I don't think ska will ever be for me, but I do enjoy the song Superman.
Yeah.
Here I am doing
Everything I can.
I wish that was from this album.
Goldfinger. Great name for a band.
Finger, yeah.
Ska is just okay. Anyway, this is a long ass album. Why don't we give it a one last listen so we can all go home for the night.
What an album.
You know, it was an album.
Everything went numb.
Yeah, I love the big brass intro here that then kicks off with the drums and our story goes like this, and then from Thomas, and then just kind of starts singing at his frantic pace that's kept throughout the entire album. It's one of the only 3 songs that's under 4 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a really good way to start the album, and I'm a big sucker for vocalizing, and they do that a lot here and later on the album with some really great like na-na-na parts, especially especially right after 2 minutes. They do a little bit of call and answer, but it's never enough that it feels like boring or like a shtick.
Well, let me tell you, it becomes a shtick. It's
It's
every
not-
single song they go, da, 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 da. It's like, okay.
It's not that bad. Like ski mask check, sawed off check.
On this song, yeah, it's not as bad.
Yeah.
I like the short and sweet sax solo intro.
Oh yeah.
Before everything kind of comes in. It reminded me, the only kind of like saxophone player I actually actively listen to is Moon Hooch. And
Okay.
I was like, oh, it's going to be like saxophone heavy.
Nah.
Yeah, no.
They're
right.
saxophones, but
Yeah.
I
I
only
wouldn't
really
say
follow
it's
Sax Squatch, the guy who plays saxophone
name.
in
Nice.
the in the Sasquatch suit.
Yeah.
I also follow the guy who plays that giant saxophone that puts like the road cone in
Yeah.
it and
Yeah,
walks
that's what Moon
into.
Hooch does as well.
Yeah,
I like High Stories. They're always cool. He's singing so fast I can't follow the lyrics. I was reading them, so I kind of got it. But
Yep.
if I'm just listening, I have no clue what he's saying.
Yep.
It's a fun song, though. The horns are excellent. I think it could have ended at 2:45 when things seemed like they're about to wind down, and then they just like do the chorus again. I was like, oh, okay.
Yep.
But that'll be a theme through the whole album.
Yeah. It's 100% a thing that they do on basically every song. I do agree they could probably end them all early.
Live at a live
Like,
show, do that.
live-
like, ramp it back
oh,
up, sure.
yeah.
But in an album, like you've already ramped down.
I get
Why
it.
go back up just to go back down?
I
just
do get it.
just to end it again. Yeah,
I like it, but it's because I just love this album, and I just kind of love the sound that they're doing.
Bill, I like a good song about a robbery.
Say less.
You know what I don't like? Ska music.
Na 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 na.
I love that
The story
part.
was interesting though. Like what kills me is that like the story is somewhat good. It's buried in there, but if you read the lyrics, it's okay.
Yeah,
But then they bury it.
Thomas is a pretty good songwriter. Singing questionable because he's mostly singing so fast or so loud that it's like hard to say he's like a good singer or anything like that. But the lyrics themselves are usually really great. Well, then we get to That'll Be the Day.
Not the Buddy Holly song.
No, I really love the heavy guitar riff and bass line at the start before the rest of the
Me
band
too.
comes in. I love.
I also wrote that. I really like the guitar intro before the horns come
Yeah.
in. Yeah.
I love the line, you brag of your indecency like a monkey beats his chest. This one's kind of obviously about how we're all the same once we're dead. I love the chorus, like the hey. Backing vocals are great. Feels really
that
powerful.
heavy guitar keeps coming back. So it comes out back
Yeah.
at 2:30, goes away, comes back around in 3 minutes again.
Yeah, there's like
Yeah.
a crunchy guitar in the final verse.
Yeah.
Yeah. All those parts are great.
Part of the guitar going in and out is because Thomas is singing and playing guitar, which is not always super easy to do, especially when you're singing this fast.
All those things are great, but
Everything else in between is kind of it's just okay. It's whatever.
yes, I agree.
It's
I don't
ska
think it's strong.
music.
I don't think it's as strong as the last song. I like the chorus and a bit of a breakdown around 2.5 minutes as well.
Yeah.
But again, the song feels like it drags on too long.
Sure.
It is much too long.
Yeah.
Actually, is it that long? How long is it?
It's about 4.5 minutes.
Almost all of them are like 4.5 to 6 minutes. I like the bridge. I really like the horns and the drums during it. And then I really like the outro where most of the instruments kind of fade away for the last two lines.
Sure.
Yeah. And then we get Point Counterpoint, which is a big favorite of mine. We used to sing this one a lot in high school, actually. I like the little acoustic and the vocals intro, which gives us the chorus without the rest of the band. And then they kind of speed up and slow down, which is pretty fun. And then this is the first one on the album that sounds like pretty typical punk ska, which is like just super fast singing, so like a little bit of trombone and trumpet solos.
This is a trombone solo.
Yeah.
It's also that first song where it starts this trend of like every song being about suicide or
Pretty much.
referencing suicide.
Yep.
I don't like the intro. I appreciate that it's different, but I don't like it.
Sure.
The chorus and post-chorus where everyone's singing along is a lot of fun though.
Yeah.
And though it's a pretty dynamic song with a unique intro and it's a unique intro and bridge, I don't think the song again had to be 5.5 minutes.
Sure.
It just makes the unique things that come up feel less unique because you've heard it like 4 or 5 times by the end of the song. You're like, well, that was fun, but now I'm not enjoying this chorus anymore because I've heard it like a dozen times in this 6-minute song.
See, for us, this was like a drinking song, so it was perfect for that because we'd just be sitting around a table drunk at like 15, and just singing point counterpoint. I don't know. It's hard to explain.
It is an unnecessarily upbeat song about a dark subject.
That's the whole album.
That's the whole album. From now on, it's the whole album.
That's the whole album. Then we get If and When We Rise Again. It's got a cool laid-back guitar solo with a rising bass line.
Yeah.
Oof, that intro's so long. It's too
I love
long.
it.
Nothing happens for over a minute.
Yeah, but
I
it's a
know.
heavy intro, and it's
Yeah.
not. It doesn't sound like ska for a minute.
It's a blissful break. I think the crash in after the wait is pretty sweet. Like,
Yeah.
I'll give him credit. But then it immediately dies down and a different song starts up.
Kind
I was
of,
like,
yeah.
is this just a weird interlude?
Yeah, the
Why did it
end
be
is
part of
just
this?
the melody of Hungarian Dance by Brahms.
It sure is. Number
Yeah,
5.
there's like a little melody that starts around 320, and
Yeah.
I recognize some of the songs.
I love
And it
it.
just feels so random.
I do.
So part of the thing that I like about ska, and that's kind of often joked about it because it's got so many different instruments, is it's like a band geek band.
Oh.
Like I played trumpet in high school, not for very long because I wasn't very good, but
Thankfully.
thankfully. But that's kind of part of it, is that like it's just all these different band geeks who know all of these random songs that you learn in like high school or college. And I don't know, I really like the insert of the Hungarian Dance number 5. I'm a big fan.
Mambo number 5. Is Mambo number 5 ska?
No.
Mambo number 5.
Yeah, this one's just kind of about people and organizations being fake and freeing yourself from them. It's a long song with not a ton of lyrics. Then we get A Better Place and A Better Time.
The song is 6 minutes and 30 seconds long.
Yeah. You'll
I think it's my favorite so far.
it's my favorite by a long shot.
The way they depict suicide and talk about it is a lot more tasteful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about encouraging someone to not commit suicide.
It's
Yeah.
more helpful. It's like they haven't been glorifying it before, but they've also just been describing it, so
Yep.
it's not like negative or positive towards it. Versus this one, they're like, "Do not do it. Things will get better." Yada yada yada, and again, it's so long.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
repeat it so many times. Like, I like this song. I liked it, parts of it. But it means that I'll never put it on a playlist when it's like, I don't like it for 6.5
I hear you.
minutes.
I don't
Yeah.
I don't think it should be on
Like,
a playlist.
oh my God.
My note was sort of similar. I said the shame is that this very, very long song has the best instrumentation on the entire album.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah, to be honest, this song usually makes me cry. I've both been Annie and known Annie. Growing up where I did, I know way too many people who unfortunately decided to kill themselves too young. And so this one just always ends up taking me to a pretty personal place.
Sure.
So I really like when he sings lines like buying flowers for graves, I'd rather buy you a one-way nonstop, or I think I'll pass away tonight because it seems I'll never get it right. Yeah, maybe I'm biased because of how much this one means to me, but I think it's probably one of their best. I really like the soft...
I agree. This is probably one of the better songs in the whole album.
It's probably
Yeah.
one of the best ones. I really like the soft opening. I like the sad lyrics. I like the little breakdowns that happen throughout. The backing vocals are nice. I like that big crashing peak about halfway through. It never feels long to me because I get too wrapped up in the lyrics and sing along to it and stuff. But yeah, I totally admit it's too long, 6.5 minutes. But
Yeah.
for me, it's great.
Yeah, I know we're going to harp on how long the song is, but I got distracted by an article on the internet that I was reading, and I thought I had missed the transition to the next track. And I went down, and I looked, and there was still 1 minute and 20 seconds left in this song.
Yeah.
But anyway, the article is about how Harrison Hot Springs is insane. But it's actually really interesting. Read up on Harrison Hot Springs. The mayor tells people to grow up all the time.
Wow.
It's really
To
interesting.
be fair, it's about time they grew up.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. He also thinks there's a mole in City Hall. There's only 5 people who work
Oh,
in City Hall.
I heard about that.
Yeah, that's really
Yeah.
neat. Isn't that dumb? Harrison Hot Springs. Home of Sasquatch.
Then we get We Are the Few. I like the pre-chorus and the chorus quite a bit. And the breakdown before 2.5 minutes in is pretty powerful.
Did anyone read the genius annotation to this
Okay,
song?
I did, and
It's
I have that noted
completely
down.
unhinged.
So I can't tell if it's written by the songwriter because he keeps saying I.
I know.
It's like, I did this. blah blah blah, and,
And
it's
it's
his
talking
only
about
annotation.
like little girls being taken from their homes and stuff
Yeah,
like
like,
that.
it's
What
so
the hell
odd.
is it?
It's wild.
I'm like, is this the writer? Is he just a weirdo who's really attached to the song? Because it's his only annotation on Genius is for this song.
yeah.
So I'm like, what is this?
And it's one long run-on sentence that's like
Giant.
I'm holding up my hand. It's like the size of a Big Mac.
He does have
but
a
on your
small
screen.
hand, but
I have small hands, but it's about the size of a Big Mac on your screen.
it
Yeah.
is very odd.
Yeah, it is so weird. Anyway, that's the only thing I wrote down
Wait a
about
minute.
this.
Wait. The size of a Big Mac on it. What the hell does that mean? A Big Mac on your screen?
Oh, okay, like think about how big a Big Mac is, and it's that big, but now it's on your screen.
Okay. I mean,
I'm really hungry, Bell.
I want a Big Mac. Yeah, it's a crazy annotation. That's one of the 2 notes I have as well.
Yeah.
The only other note is that I really like the bridge on this one, and it should have been an ending verse, but then they ramp it up for another minute and a half for no reason.
Yep. For the pit.
Yeah.
100% for the pit.
The guitar work is good.
Oh, it's fantastic. He's a really good guitarist. He's a good songwriter. But yeah, I totally get why it's not for a lot of people. But I really like We're the Few. I really like the backing vocals that come in with the snary drums. I really like the bass line across the whole song quite a bit as well. And I really like that part when he says, I want to hold her and tell her it's not your fault, right before everything kind of ramps up again with a bunch of na-na-nas.
No.
Yeah, this is one of the only songs that I personally think goes on too long. They could probably cut one of the choruses at the end, but I like the very end when it comes down to just guitar and vocals, and Thomas says right as more of a question than a statement to kind of change the lyrics at the very end. Then we get Failing Flailing. I like how much of a wall of sound they've got going on at the start, especially with the guitar filling everything out behind the brass. And I really like the backing vocals and the kind of call and answer on this one quite a bit, especially with how much it's about sticking together.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a huge fan of the lines, well, you say your life's a bore, and I can't quite disagree if you judge your life by the pieces of that inhabit your TV, and everyone who's anyone is a waste of time. So much of life is just an act, kind of faking it till you make it. So yeah, it drives me nuts when people make heroes of random idiots on TV. But I love the sort of round they do later on.
Yeah,
with
it's
the
not a
layered vocals.
harmony, but the whole group singing is pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, and they're all singing different lines too, and then it eventually all kind of meets.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
a round. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of it's kind of like a round.
You know what else it is? It's too long by over a minute.
Sure.
Yeah, I have no notes. It's the same as every other song. Like, I have the same feelings.
And then we get Here's to Life, which is another sad anti-suicide song that mentions a lot of historically famous people or characters who killed themselves or were suicidal.
I didn't really feel. I didn't really get anti-suicide vibes. It's
Really?
just like, here's some famous people who killed themselves.
But I missed them. Like, that's the whole thing is like,
Yeah, but Ernest Hemingway killed himself like 50 years before.
He doesn't miss Van Gogh.
well, no. But it's like they're people that he would probably wish were still around to finish out their stories and stuff.
I understand what you're
Yeah.
saying. Yeah.
Like Hemingway was pretty influential. Kurt Cobain, Salinger, Camus, Caulfield from Catcher in the... Well, Caulfield from Catcher in the Rye is kind of a piece of garbage, but
Yeah,
whatever.
I guess it's interesting to note that he mentions Kurt Cobain, but he doesn't mention him. He just mentions his initials.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kurt Douglas Cobain.
Donald? Is it?
Yeah,
Curb
KDC,
Yeah.
you were much too young. Yeah, this was originally on the Bandits of the Acoustic Revolution EP. I don't know. I really like the energy from Thomas when he yells, "Here's to life."
This is like the third song about not killing yourself.
Yeah.
And then there's one song about killing yourself.
Yeah,
Okay. Anyway.
yeah.
A moment of silence.
I like the almost medieval horn intro quite a bit. Almost like someone's being heralded. Maybe in this place it's the Grim Reaper.
Sure.
Because it's about death. This one's just kind of about losers and loners and people who've been hurt or grown up abused and are left cynical. I like the little stop they do before 2 minutes.
Sure.
I
Yeah,
think-
that's cool.
Yeah, I think it's got a great chorus and a great group vocal section for the oh part.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
And I like the little saxophone solo around 3 1/4 minutes before the last chorus.
I think the most notable thing about it is that this song's melody is slow, but the next song is the same melody but fast.
Yeah. Yeah, and A Moment of Violence is only like 2 minutes long.
Yeah, it's the same melody but just with a lot more gusto.
Yeah. Very fitting that this is the shortest track at only 2 minutes, considering it's titled Moment of Violence.
Sorry, I didn't want to get away from
No,
the
it's
moment
fine.
of silence.
Yeah.
I like my
Yeah.
only notes about both of them is that it's the same song, but one has much different lyrics,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one's a lot more aggressive.
Yeah, I like the slower pace and silence. It's a nice break for the ears. I like the continuation in Moment of Violence. Like I like it's just the same, pretty much the same thing, faster. And it's only 2 minutes. And I put a smiley emoji.
Nice. I kind of wish, personally, you guys probably don't, but I wish they just made a single 7-minute song and combined the two.
Honestly, they may as well.
If-
It didn't make a difference. They're back to back.
Right?
It
Yeah.
bleeds over. It's like the only song
Yeah,
that bleeds together.
crossfades into itself. Yeah.
Yeah, if you listen to the album front to back, you'd never know that there were two songs. Then we get the saddest song, which I really like how prominent the brass section is on this track.
Pretty
And
sure it's another song about suicide, right?
Probably.
Okay.
It's got really great drums and bass that often get to stand out quite a bit in the mix.
Yeah, it's only 3 minutes long too.
Yep,
So it's
one of the
like,
few.
It's like it doesn't overstay its welcome.
Yeah.
But you know,
I like the breaks they add, even with the song being shorter.
certainly, yeah.
It's got another great outro. This one mostly instrumental, but they kind of hang on to the final note a little too long. And then we get the Big Sleep, which is another sad song about suicide, war, and death. This one to me was always about how some of the best people are the ones who kill themselves, like how those who are full of life are often masking a lot of pain. I really like the guitar in the background and the driving drum beat. It's got a great bass line. Another good na-na-na section. And then I like the big horn section around 4 minutes in, before the last few lines. And then the drums at the very end are very good.
But I only noticed the end of the album, smiley face emoji.
I kind of liked how he referenced Bob Dylan.
Yeah, me and Mr.
Yeah.
Dylan.
Yeah. Me and Mr. Dylan on the ride home. I can sing like almost this whole album. I love this album. I'm going to rate it a 10. I'll tell you that now.
You're impossible.
You're
impossible. You're impossible.
It's one of a lot of the albums that I like rate highly or love are albums that I used to listen to with friends as a teenager, for sure.
This guy's really flexing he had friends.
Wow.
I didn't have any.
Yeah, you know what though? Having said that, a lot of the albums that I've chosen so far are albums that I enjoyed when I was much younger.
Yeah.
And some of them hold up, and others don't. Like for example, the brand new album that we covered last year.
Sure.
And you know, some of them do hold up. But this isn't something that I would ever listen to when I was a youth, if you will.
For what it's worth, I know that this is definitely not for everyone, but for the people who do like this stuff, whether it's punk or ska in general, it's typically rated pretty highly.
Certainly, yeah. The reviews on
The
it
reviews
are
are pretty
excellent.
good, yeah.
Yeah, reviewed really well with punk publications and you know, various ska. I don't think Pitchfork reviewed it at all.
No, I don't
looked
think
it
so.
up. Yeah.
Yeah. And they've gone on to make several more albums, I think all of which aren't quite as good as their debut, but they're all pretty decent. They've even re-released Keysby Nights, which is a Catch-22 album. And what was really cool was instead of just remastering it, which was the original intention, they actually re-recorded the whole thing. And it kind of outros with this whole like talking text thing, an interview between Thomas and someone about how like, I don't know, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. As for the physical aspects of it, you guys will probably hate me. I paid about $80 for it shipped because while it's been repressed a few times, it tends to sell out very quickly. And it's a limited pressing because they're usually on independent labels now.
Certainly, yeah.
It currently goes for like 145 CAD on Discogs. So I know I paid $80, but it's already worth more than that. It's got, while you might not appreciate the songs themselves, you should appreciate the album. It's a 45 RPM double LP.
That's interesting, yeah.
Very heavyweight vinyl in a gatefold jacket. On the cover is the album art, a close-up of a girl with the image cropping above her lips and below her shoulders. So you just get like her choker necklace and kind of sleeveless top. Looks like she's holding something, and it's all in black and red pointillism. This version at least says presented in hi-fi stereo sound at the top with the band name underneath in all caps, and then the album name at the bottom in all lowercase. On the back is
Yeah,
more...
the cover's cool.
Yeah.
The album cover belies what's inside the record.
It almost reminds me of the copy I have of the Cowboy Bebop
Yeah,
soundtrack.
I was going to say,
Oh, yeah.
very similar to the Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah.
It's like if they made a live action one.
Yeah.
But it's neat.
Yeah. I had the CD as a kid, and I bought the record. I always wanted to pick up this record, but it was constantly either sold out or, like I said, going for more than what I paid for it in the $150, $200 range. So as soon as I saw it for $80, I picked it up. But on the back is more black and red pointillism, but this time I have no idea what it's showing. Aside from that, there's some black and gray lines and arrows that kind of run across the whole thing, and a track list with everything divided into sides A through D. My only issue with the physical release of this, while I appreciate that it's a 45, it's a really long album, and I have to flip it like a lot because it's 4 sides. So that's as much as I love that it's a very heavyweight 45 RPM, like it's high quality. I'd probably be okay with like not that, and it being a 33 and just being on like maybe really heavily pressed into one disc if possible. But yeah, when you open it up, there's more black and red pointillism in the background with the lyrics to all the songs in white boxes, and then a special thanks at the end. The records themselves are fine. They're just housed in regular white paper sleeves with each side labeled. What'd you guys think?
I made a joke about how Bell's pick, Joji, a couple of weeks ago was this season's the best.
Yeah.
And
dang, you liked it worse than Joji?
He didn't say that.
No, I said I like it about as much as I like Joji.
All right, fair.
This is 100%. I understand how you both feel during Joji now, where I'm like, this is really good, and you're like, what the hell?
I made that joke, and I'm gonna take that joke back. I'm gonna say Joji wasn't as bad as I made it out to be. Joji's misunderstood. You know what isn't misunderstood?
Joji's pretty bad.
Ska music. No, I don't know. It's not awful, but again, like if you're not into ska, this was a lot of ska to get through. And that was part of the reason I did the notes for this one before I did the notes for the Kinks, which is our last week's episode. Because I knew what I wanted to write for the Kinks. That album is like 40 minutes long, and it's pretty easy to get through. This one was a little bit harder to get through. It took me 3 days to listen to the entire album and make notes on it. And even then, I didn't really make that many notes, but I did pay attention to it. I didn't enjoy the album. It's probably like a 3 or 4 out of 13 for me. I understand why Plouffe likes it.
Listen, you don't have to backpedal. I feel like y'all are so scared to give a bad review the last couple of weeks. I don't know what happened.
I don't know.
Who's been in your DMs lately, you two?
I don't know. I don't want to be mean to Plouffe.
We didn't discuss this one at all.
Yeah.
No, not between the two of you. Like, what fan has been in your DM being like, awful taste? Even Joji, I will not forget, you gave it a 5, and you're like, well, actually, it's a 3. I just feel peer pressure. And now Jamie's like, everyone else, don't worry.
With Joji, it's because I liked.
I just don't want to sound negative. I know we talk about
for what's his face.
Yeah, like I don't want to sound negative like in every episode, but like this album, I didn't enjoy it. I'm not a fan. So. Mr. Bell, what'd you think?
Let me start by saying, if you struggle with self-harm or suicidal thoughts, please reach out to someone.
Yeah,
there's a lot of talk about self-harm and stuff like that in this album. Whether or not they're glorifying it, which I'm not saying they are, it's still like a lot to be thinking about, because like so much of this has subject matter of like having a weapon at your head, or all these people who have committed suicide, or how the best people have committed suicide. Even if they're not meaning to, having that kind of on your brain is pretty heavy. So again, if you struggle with any of that, please do reach out to somebody. It's important. I think that if these were Blink-182 songs, I'd like them more, because there'd be less horns, there'd be fewer chorus repeats, it'd be the same amount of harmonizing and blissfully shorter. It'd be fire. I don't know if every song felt the same, and I don't know what the problem was. Like, every song felt the same, and with how long the songs are, I was just getting so bored while listening. And I'm sure if this was just on while I was playing Skate or something, I wouldn't really mind, but I couldn't imagine putting this on to sit and listen to it, or flipping it 3 times.
I guess 3. You'd flip it 3 times.
Far too many. I'm putting this in the 16th spot, below Marcy Playground self-titled, and above Transmissions from the Satellite Heart by the Flaming Lips. This is in very interesting company. It's above Elvis Costello. It's above Flaming
I love
Lips.
that album too.
It is just not for me. The album cover's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah.
If it was $4, I would buy it just for the album cover.
Sure. Yeah, it's pretty sick.
Unfortunately, it is many times
it's a
more
lot
than
more.
It's 25 times more.
It's highly sought after. I think what we've mostly established over the last year and a half or so is that I have we all have albums that we all agree with or get along with, but I have like just vastly very different taste than you guys a lot of the time. Kind of preferring some weirder genres and less like more niche stuff. Because for me, this is a 10 out of 10. I think this is basically the greatest third wave ska album of all time. I think the lyrics are incredibly poignant. All the instrumentation evokes either, at least to me, a sense of frustrated angst when it's heavy and kind of subdued sorrow when it's quiet. I don't think Tomas is the most beautiful singer, but that's not also what the album is about. To me, it's about more a voice crying out in anguish over losing those you love. Their follow-up albums are good, but this is easily their best. I'm happy to finally own a copy, even if I paid a little extra for it. And I'm still hoping to someday see Streetlight live. And, yeah.
You know what? If you're out there and you think this was okay or good, you should listen to Pez. Go on YouTube and search Pez Watouche. Like it sounds. It's Billy Talent before they were Billy Talent. And that's ska music I can get behind.
I hate Billy Talent, though. Is it like Billy Talent?
No.
Okay, maybe I'd like it then. Maybe I'd like it.
Just with his very interesting voice.
Yeah, I don't hate his voice. I just don't like Billy Talent's sound.
First, it just made me want to listen to that because it's, I think, the only kind of ska. Sure. I mean, other than Goldfinger, because here I am.
Well, luckily enough, I have purchased another Caddies album. I have a Voodoo Glow Skulls album, and I also am going to purchase probably Yellow Number 5 by Mustard Plug. So I'm definitely going to choose more ska.
Listen to Plouffe's podcast.
As time goes on, whether they like it or not.
We're looking for a new third host.
Well, tune in next week. We're doing a topic episode. Artists we own the most albums by. I don't know if there's an easier way of saying that. I guess I'll find out next week. But we're going to look through our collection, see what artist we own the most albums by, and choose an album by that artist. I'm excited. My choice is Dan Mangan. I own
You ever heard of a band called the Beatles?
Is yours the Beatles?
I own 22
How
Beatles.
do you?
Oh my goodness!
Is that with compies?
They were only a band for like 8 years. How do you have 22 albums by them?
So the Beatles had this weird thing where...
Actually, we'll talk about it next week. Plouffe, who's your pick?
If I just ordered records today, and if they came in time, it'd be Aesop Rock again. But one, we've talked about them, and two, I don't own those albums yet, so it's going to be Red Hot Chili Peppers because I have eight of their records.
The Beatles and Red Hot Chili Peppers. That's a stacked up. I mean, I like Dan Mangan. I don't think you've heard of them though, but that is a stacked episode. Make sure to tune in. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.
See you later.